Saturnday, November the 16th, 2024, just after 7 p.m. Phones are immediately open. And I think we'll continue our conversation we started last night regarding the upcoming fight, what came of it, and what it all means. I think it was certainly a victory for Netflix. A lot of people calling fakery on both sides. There are some bizarre things that occurred. Last night was a full moon. That is, Tyson was supposedly mistakenly shown in the locker room, basically full mooning. Some kind of humiliation ritual. I mean, I suppose he was in some kind of a sports strap, but a strange look. Many people thought it looked like a sparring match. Tyson himself claimed that he just recovered from something in June. So just being there was a victory. Depends on how you look at it. I'm not necessarily all that cynical. I think everybody came out a winner, except for those of us whose browsers crashed, and apparently that was a lot of people. But I was just watching it because I want to understand what's the big picture here, and I think we have some pretty strong clues. In fact, Synchro Morpheus had put together a compilation of clues that actually further add to this ongoing narrative that ultimately it's about the spectacle itself. So let's take a look at this. So we've been talking about how Nope by Jordan Peele was based on the George Floyd spectacle. And this conversation was part of a deeper conversation the other day. But Nope begins where one character is looking up at the UFO and a nickel falls out of it and punctures his eye. And so this kind of has an interesting connection to the eye tattoo. Then we have this. Jake Paul and Mike Tyson key takeaways. A spectacle that stopped the world and broke Netflix. Which also kind of ties into Jake Paul calling himself a nuke. But again, Synchro Morpheus says it sounds like the fight was a joke. It's being referred to as a spectacle, which still lines up with the Jordan Peele and Nope script. So again, Jordan Peele's Nope was based on the George Floyd spectacle. So that is just some aspect of it to look at here as far as the bigger picture, because there's no doubt that they did manage to, in fact, get everybody to look at it. And then there's even more. He posts, I saw this connection the other day. Jake's brother Logan Paul was mocked for not understanding the movie Nope. So Logan Paul was slammed for his Nope review when he is, quote, a real-life example. In other words, the irony was lost on him being a critic of a movie because it's actually about him. So Logan Paul does not understand Nope, and it's so funny when the film is about people like him. So you're telling me the movie is very clear commentary on spectacle, and the lengths people will go to capture it was missed by Logan Paul, the guy who vlogged himself and his friends laughing at a dead body in the forest in Japan. The irony is beyond cosmic. Again, it says, very interested that Logan Paul didn't understand a movie in which the themes were how people will do anything for the spectacle. And the symbolism of the nickel hitting the eye, you know, the eye, the spectacle, the spectator, and we're talking about bread and circuses. So that's one major aspect to this, is how they got 60 plus, probably 66.6 million people watching, including me. And I paid $6.99, so if you're really into numerology, you could probably configure that into the 666. All right, let's see who has rolled in here. Austin 108, Diana South, Frugal Snowbird, Ollie Goering, Reverse History, Ted Stryker. So did it have any significance, the bowing to Tyson? I hadn't thought about that. Thundernut6 says, happy to catch you live, joined by HLG, GLH, AJ206. Truth Hurts said, didn't Netflix freeze on Tyson's bare buns casually walking around? Yeah, they did. They did. And last night it was a full moon in Taurus, if that means anything. Many people are calling it staged. Some say it's just cope. Others suggest it was a sparring match, prearranged. Whatever the case, there's probably something other than the outcome of the fight itself to be looking at here. And we were talking about some of the significances of these characters. And I use the word characters, advisedly. I think this might just be the next iteration of WWF. So take a look at the screen here. Yesterday, Elon Musk tweeted this. He tweeted a wrench emoji. So earlier today, I was on with Bach Precision, and I'll upload that conversation we had this evening. And I was talking about the history of the blue wrench, the moderator wrench, and how it was necessary to allow our think tank to function in the early days before we had the numbers. And we took it to be a symbol of deconstruction, media deconstruction, a spanner in the works, but also the symbol of the, I guess, commitment to order. The idea that we had 400 moderators was something of a troll repellent. But yesterday, Elon Musk tweeted an image of himself from several years ago holding a large wrench. Not sure what it means, but sometimes I just get these things in my feed. Trump at UFC today in New York, says Kevin Mooring. Well, I watched the fight. I watched it. I guess it was riveting, entertaining, I suppose. I don't know what people expected. But yesterday, Sylvester Stallone, a.k.a. Rocky, was at the Trump White House, and he said that Trump doesn't exist. He's a mythical character. And he referenced Rocky and how the movie was at the Resurrection Athletic Center, Resurrection AC. And the opening scene is Jesus pants down to Rocky, the sun's on him. And he talked about Rocky being a chosen one. And we talked about the Christian significance of the Rocky movie. But it was just kind of noteworthy that Trump's hanging out with this individual. And back in 2017, Trump was tweeting images of himself on Rocky's body. So there must be something. And none of these things are unintentional. We were talking during this interview today about the significance of the religious themes and the symbolism within movies, and none of it is unintentional. Conscious Reality CD, Piano Andante, King TL, Jennifer Reeves, Michelle Kastner, and Phil LeBlanc have all rolled in. Observing Reality says ahoy. Lean Dion, thanks for joining. All right, the numbers are picking up. We're pretty much consistently getting over 200, some nights 300, if you include the audio. And so we're also having the replay mirrored on Paranormal Radio, TuneIn, and radio.net. Lean Dion says, Rock and Stone references, always Masony. Diana South says, we know they listen to IPS. Dead Rubber Baby Eyes. Yeah, very likely. Conscious Reality says, have you discussed the fight and the symbolism with Father Time, a.k.a. Saturn? Now that you bring it up, are you referencing... Now, this could be interesting, because the whole Saturn imagery of Saturn always doing the biting, because Tyson kept on chewing on his glove, if you recall, and he mentioned that he had a biting fetish. What was that about? But I'd be interested to hear your thoughts, because what Synchromorpheus had pointed out, and this is what we were comparing it to, was the Daniel Penny killing of Jordan Peele. But the Saturn biting thing, very interesting. I have a picture here of Evander Holyfield with his ear. And last night I went to a dispensary after the live stream on the way to go watch the fight, and they were actually playing the fight on the big screen. And they have these gummies, these Mike Tyson gummies half off, and it's literally Holyfield ears. And they had 2 tip jars. And if you were betting on Mike, you tipped in the Mike jar. And a lot of people are favoring Mike Tyson. But yeah, they actually have edible versions of this ear. But again, there were some interesting correlations between Daniel Penny and Jake Paul. And then, of course, we're kind of looking at this reoccurring theme. We'll probably get back to all of this. Other things we talked about yesterday. I fixed the Godzilla, by the way. The ISS has a leak, and it may be catastrophic. Thank you for feeding the Krakwin, Phil LeBlanc. The IPS thanks you for your support and participation. Conscious Reality says, also the stage lights were set up 3x3. Yeah, I think we would be remiss if we didn't look at the occult underpinnings of this. Like every sporting event, there has to be something. But what was picked up by Synchromorpheus, these connections kind of tie in concurrently as the fight was delayed, and it happens to occur while Daniel Penny's jury is determining whether or not he was at fault. And so there's another story here, an outrage that's being manufactured in progress, just kind of cooking there. For all the hype, it was rather tame. We were talking about Jake Paul's mother threatening to kill Tyson. Very reminiscent of Jason Voorhees' mother telling him to go get those bad teenagers who made fun of him at Crystal Lake summer camp. But yeah, just in, Mike Tyson flashes his bare back on TV. I mean, he was just walking like he didn't care. But again, I don't think there are any coincidences. I don't know if they have a 7-second delay, but they let that go through. Let me post a link here, and I am going to send this out. But if you haven't seen it yet, it was IPS on Bach Precision, and we had a 95-minute conversation, just over an hour and a half. And I was going to go through some of the comments. We'll go through this and see what people say in response to it. He asked a lot of questions, mostly about auto-hoaxing the IPS and where we're going with this. Okay, Jake Paul is the troubled child. That's right. Kevin Mooring, who had the better slap, Tyson or Will Smith on Chris Rock? Excellent question. And that's one of those events where it was fake. And we found a video of Will Smith giving a seminar on how to do a fake slap on stage. But there were some interesting undertones to that particular story. You have Will Smith slapping Chris Rock and his wife Jade. And one interpretation, you have Jade in the green dress. One interpretation is Venus. And Venus Williams was there. But Venus, of course, married to the blacksmith, her husband. There's some kind of story in which he defends her honor from an insult from Zeus and ends up getting thrown out of Olympus. There are a number of stories attached to that slap thing. Highly ritualistic. But I would say that the Mike Tyson slap was pretty impressive, pretty fast, and I don't think that was faked. But anyway, this is going to be one of the topics tonight. We'll continue to look at this. The spectacle angle is there. The word spectacle, nope, the references to nope, very specific and pointed here. All right, let's go ahead and go through my notes. By the way, you can call in 505-510-4226, or you can go into the Discord voice chat if you're not able to call in. So that's a second option for you. Picked up on a comment. Patricia Steer said, you mentioned Tom Cruise's hair. He'll have a military buzz cut for the filming of Fake Space, I believe. I looked into that, and it does seem to be the case that his Mission Impossible haircuts are kind of short, so they may not have to have an issue faking his hair. Had a comment on Spotify. An anonymous commenter said, can you recommend a prior episode that objectively explains your theory on chemtrails? Are you saying they're not spraying sulfates in our lower atmosphere? Why not ever mention SRM? It does not all have to be aluminum. And my response was, until you can predict chemtrails, there's no argument for their existence. Why? Because contrails are predictable based on climate and altitude. And that's the end of the discussion. There is no evidence for the existence of chemtrails unless you can first debunk contrails and the explanation for their persistence. And the fact of it is contrails are predictable. Nobody at all, not even Richie from Boston, can predict chemtrails. Not accurately. It's not a predictable phenomenon because it's not real. So it's that simple. Okay, so this is what he said. This was a quote. Jake Paul said, quote, I am a manufactured killer. I am a nuke. Yeah, last night was a full moon. That's why I mentioned Tyson. Maybe there's some kind of meaning to that. It was full moon in Taurus, right? And that kind of stuff matters to the cult that runs this place. I'm not going to share that video. It's being memed like crazy. So it turns out that Alex Jones isn't taking InfoWars back. It is being taken over. And the CEO of The Onion, Ben Collins, has plans for it. So apparently in January, they're turning InfoWars into a satire website. And they will also be targeting podcasters for ridicule. So that's a new strategy that you see emerging here when it comes to how the MSM is confronting what they consider to be a pandemic of mind viruses, a digital pandemic, just like the digital nuke concept. See, the digital nuke would refer to hacking that destroys the infrastructure, whereas a digital mind virus pandemic is just the content that they need to block. And that's one of the growing narratives. So here you have the CEO of The Onion, who used to be over on NBC, and he did all his reporting on extremism and misinformation. And he says, quote, "We will go after every facet of alternative media. Our top targets will be podcasters and TikTok influencers."
Here we are. The Onion owns Infowars. Look, we're going to go after all of every facet of alternative media that is trying to get you addicted to stupid stuff. There is a whole world of podcasters and
Infinite Plane Radio.
Hey Tim, 9-time caller, regular listener, Tommy King. How you doing?
Oh, hey, what's up, Tommy King? I thought that was you in the comments. Good to hear from you.
Yeah, yes, sir. Yeah, it's been a minute. Obviously, let's not jump on Glazing, but obviously, I love seeing that you're still doing this. Did anybody notice how Jake Paul came out to that "In the Air Tonight" song, and that the movie The Hangover, Mike Tyson does that, boom, boom, and then hits dude.
Yes,
with that right hook in the movie.
I'm glad you brought that up. People were pointing out how in The Hangover, Mike Tyson makes everybody be quiet for the cool part of the song, the Phil Collins song, and then he punches the guy at the end of the drum roll. And yeah, Jake Paul deliberately came out to that. It had to be a reference to that. That was pretty funny, actually.
What? Exactly. And obviously, you can tell the how it was. We'll say rigged or whatever. It was a spectacle, an exhibition. It was called an exhibition. We shouldn't look at it. Can't look at it like it was. It wasn't like a real fight of two up and comers that are honest to goodness trying to become top of the heap. It was a spectacle. So that's it's rough. It's glad for regular people to look at it and be like, oh my gosh, could sporting events be rigged? Just to question it, but not get all hung up, I guess we'll say, over this one.
Well, think about it. Compare the fight with Jake Paul and Tyson to the two women boxers who fought right before, where it was bloody. Okay. They were being injured. They were headbutting each other. They were really damaging each other, and it was very passionate. And it was real.
Very true. And even the fight before that with the two Barrios Ramos, that was real boxing. That was a fight, and that decision, I think, went to the champion. I'm pretty sure.
Well, I had remarked that if this had been a real fight with Paul and Tyson, it would have been the first real event ever on Netflix to be portrayed. I mean, the fact it's on Netflix, as Conscious Daughter points out, that's a huge red flag.
For sure. And then what's up with when them cheeks came out, I was my Netflix went down pretty early. I want to say started going down right before the co-main event, and it was in my town. I couldn't get nothing to work good, so I was on Discord. Used a Discord move where somebody from another country was streaming it, and they had it pretty good. And then it slowly kept crippling. And for a second, I was wondering, did Netflix caused on purpose after that interview with Tyson, because that was such a uncomfortable look, I guess we'll say.
For a lot of people said it buffered at that moment. Did you actually see it buffering at that moment?
It was so it was buffering on my TV at home. Somebody had brought it up in a chat I was on. It was buffering.
Okay, I heard that. I heard that from a few people. I didn't see it live, but so not only did we get that entire view, but it was buffering for a moment. Mm-hmm. So again, and there's no way that's a coincidence.
Right. But I was hoping then it would maybe get better. How would they not know that this is going to happen? The servers getting mobbed, global, everybody watching it. You'd think, but I suppose I mean, you're a lot better, more technically network savvy. I assume knowing how much pressure can come on a computer system to make it not, or like a streaming system to make it even crash. Like how is that not overwhelming? Why does it not happen to the NFL?
Yeah, Isabel Ann says it was
like
buffering.
Local channel.
It was buffering. Yeah, I think you have to assume there was a delay. You have to assume they have like a 7-second delay. So that was meant to happen. That's a meme, and now it's a huge meme. So this is all intentional.
Bad. Yeah, that one was very bad. I caught that right away. Right when I saw them cheeks on my screen, I go, that is unsettling, and that's going to go down deep in the that like internet lore or history of messing with dude.
And Lean Dion mentioned he kissed the interviewer on the cheek just before. So I don't know what to make of it.
So yeah, he was losing it. Yeah, he was definitely. But Mike Tyson's always been weird. So it's another thing too. Let's not get confused. Dude, I never have noticed him biting. Never have I ever saw the biting thing in my whole childhood memory of watching like PTV. The like 90. I remember the 90-second knockout fight and being a little kid and like trying to watch it on the scrambly cable box when pay-per-view instead of just black your channels out, it'd be the scrambly shit. And I just all of it. I just don't remember.
I never seen it,
but I noticed.
I've never seen that either. I don't recall it. That would be like it'd be like a trademark thing. Oh, Mike Tyson, he bites his glove. I've never heard of that. And every other sentence from the commenter was, "Oh yeah, he always does this. It's only a tick." And I'm like, whatever.
Yeah, one guy let it be known, and then Roy Jones was like, "What in the hell is that?" Like Roy Jones is not a terrible boxing column or like analytical mind. We'll say. Roy Jones is one of the better ones that's been fighter and can still talk, because the talking after fighting is very tough with all these guys.
Yep,
that's something I noticed was on full display was the what do they call it? Punch drunk.
Punch drunk. Yes.
Like punch drunk. Yeah, that is such a. It's sad. It's honestly is a sad part of fighting. I know sports and I love sports, but the punch drunk part or seeing how bad they get, what happens to them is just like, goddamn.
Right.
Because I'm watching, like, yeah, But I mean, what can you do with that? I'm not trying to even derail where we were going. Where were you going? If you don't mind, let's go ahead.
Yeah, well, we were just trying to
through the topic.
We're looking at the spectacle of it. Like, what about this? Like, what was so compelling about it? And I think mainly this was almost like a flex. Like, if the power elite need everybody on Earth to stare at something pointless, they just need to hype it up right, and we all go. I think it's just a testament to the power of them to garner attention at will.
And show that they can do it. And then wasn't it a YouTuber? So Jake Paul's a YouTuber, correct? That's like I heard him say Disney on one of the lead-up interviews. But, so I guess he was a Disney kid. That to me doesn't make sense. But I think the Logans or the Pauls as being YouTubers and showing the strength of YouTuber.
Well, the Pauls are interesting in this because Logan Paul hosted a Flat Earth conference that I was at. And I remember hearing about him, and they said, according to internal memos at Google, that he was the poster child for why they need to censor Google videos. And he had primarily targeted his shock videos at children. His entire 20 million subscriber fan base were kids. And then he's doing crazy stuff for clicks. And so he's one of these individuals, I think, who is purposefully put out there to sabotage free speech by pushing the boundaries too far. And then they make the case, oh, look, now he's hosting a Flat Earth conference. This goes too far. And right after that, YouTube started censoring the topic on on this subject because they didn't want Logan Paul's influence to create a whole generation of flat earthers. So he's part of this
Okay,
bigger psyop, if you ask me.
for sure. Now, when you say hosting, we're all talking about the same. When he went to the conference and did the meme move, and it did trick a couple of people a few years back, right? Or was there another one?
No, that was the one where he was going to
The
go to
one, yeah.
Antarctica,
Okay.
but it was a documentary, but it was actually a joke film. And he did
Yeah,
host a
and that's
conference, and he dropped the mic.
and I thought that worst part is until I'm pretty sure at the end is kind of when he reveals like, oh, flat Earth is a joke or whatever, like but that I thought that was a decent flat Earth documentary. Am I wrong? Am I confused on that? Because I could have swore I watched it and I go, this wasn't that bad. And
No,
then at the end, it's just how it ended. It kind of was like, damn, got.
I thought it was funny. And they had this rap song
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
where they were like dancing with a human-sized penguin. Like, I didn't have a problem with it, to be honest.
No
I
shit.
thought it was funny.
I got it. Yeah, I don't think I did. Yeah, I would easily. I feel like I could easily rewatch that over Behind the Curve, I guess we'll say.
It was a
And
decent
I'm not
comedy.
trying to bring old beef up. I'm not trying to bring like beef up. Like I'm just now that I think about that time period, and there was a lot of like the flat Earth content was everything, and at all the documentaries that came out besides the Dubé super serious one. You know, that I thought the Logan Paul one was actually fucking hilarious.
What was funny,
Right.
though, was that they kept it under wraps. So everyone thought that he did this real documentary. He was going to the edge.
For sure.
And then,
For sure. Yeah, it
but,
worked.
I mean, it was kind of stupid funny, like Leslie Nielsen stuff.
Exactly.
I didn't have a problem with it. A lot of people were mad about it, but afterward, he had even suggested he might get into making movies. And I think that might have been a smart direction if he were to go in this vein. It was kind of a romantic comedy. I don't know. I might rewatch it just to make sure, but I thought it was pretty funny.
Yeah, I'm actually.
Well, he's dating a
that
flat
now.
earther, if you remember, and he's
That
in love
woman
with,
is a flat earther?
no, in the plot of Logan Paul's movie.
Yes. He's going there to the date thing. It was hilarious. I loved it. I remember like being like, I don't think I'm mad at him, and I was super deep. We were like all super deep up in it back then.
And he made Robbie Davidson this cult leader, and he had this shrine. I thought it was pretty damn funny.
Robbie Davidson. What happened to Robbie Davidson?
Actually, speak of the devil, Robbie Davidson just followed me on Twitter. I get these notifications. It's like Robbie Davidson is following you. And I'm like, oh.
What is he? Wasn't he considered a scam artist for a bit because he had that nice office and made the first FEA conference, right? He was the guy.
Well, I know John LeBon did some research into this raffle where he was raffling Bitcoins and giving away Jeeps or something and traveling across the country, and suggested there might have been something fishy about that. I haven't really looked too deeply into it, but I know he's alive because he definitely followed me.
There you go, for sure. I can say it like this: the one thing is with the man, the way he looked, who he looks like, his look. I remember being like, how can I trust this guy? And I'm not trying to be like rude or disingenuous because he was a genuine. I'm pretty sure that all the flat Earth early stuff, we were all genuine. I still am genuine. But
Same here. Look,
like how people are just like,
I'm not going to say anything like I can't say just based on how someone looks that I can't trust them. Although the meth pipe burn on the lip caused me to pause, but that's about it.
I think it was that. I think it was that stuff. Yeah. And then and I think that's where I was getting, and with him being a skinnier individual and taller, or just a taller man, yeah, and to where you just like this or that. I know what you look like, but his office is always the best. And I'm so sorry. I hate when I'm talking to you. I do my best to not look at the screen because I know we're on the delay. I might have said this last time. You're
slightly breaking up. Say that again.
The space that you're in is great.
Oh, thank you. The IPS headquarters.
Yeah.
I realized that to accomplish this mission, I needed to break away from any external influences and distractions. So we moved into this office space, and it's really helped everything. Everything becomes more organized, and so thank you.
Awesome. I honestly remember the days you were streaming in your car, looking at it from across the street because the workers were taking too long or something. And I was just like, well, I got to throw $20 here, $20 there, or $10, $5. Uh, it's behind the back, not behind the back talk, whatever it's called, like do this on your stream to disrupt your rhythm. But to support you, I do have you in my cash app. That does go straight to you, correct? Over like doing any of these other ways, because I know you just to show support.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cash app,
Every
100% fine. I just know the court stuff went so weird, and that's when I kind of got nervous of like, is it? I got nervous honestly to donate when there was a few months back or a year ago. I kind of remember.
when I got sued
like,
for $642,000. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it was just like this. Is this even? I go, well, I don't know if this is actually even going to Tim. Because I mean, I know our lower goes kind of back a long way. So
No,
yeah, I just want to make sure if I hit you on Cash App, it's going honestly to Tim Osman IPS and not just some piece of garbage that I got double checked by or some shit.
I gotcha. I appreciate that very much, and I appreciate all the support. And as you've seen it, this channel has grown. The think tank has grown. We've, I think, consolidated our best ideas, and it's all a consequence of everybody putting their ideas, thoughts, and contributions into it. So you've always been a supporter of the channel, purchasing the books.
Yeah. One of your books actually pissed off a guy that I was helping him move, and he came across your autohoaxology textbook, and it got him going. Autohoax 101. You triggered a normie a few months ago. I can't quite remember how it went down, but
that's
I tried
good.
to even give it to him. I go, you can take it, because I have two of them, and I go, you can take this one. Go ahead. I don't want. What are you? What is that? It was just great. I'm like,
that's good though. That's
I don't even
to me.
know what part he read. Hell yeah.
This is good feedback, because one of my intentions here is, as the parallel media metastasizes, there's going to be a point where we do collide. There's going to be a collision between the worlds here, and when that happens, the responses will help amplify our message, because it's going to be a paradigm shock to the system. And I'm glad to know that normies can just sense the threat that it represents to their fragile internal simulation.
I don't even know honestly how it was. What it was that he saw that, because I only keep a couple like books out on a shelf area in this part of my home, and that one is one I just obviously just keep out. And it was something that he opened it, and I don't know if a sticker fell out, or maybe even seeing the autograph, because you had autographed or wrote a message in the early copies. I mean, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn or whatever the fuck. Oh, I think your damn cards, the paintings fell out.
Oh, really? Out of the package?
I left them with. I left a whole, like, I leave your stuff in a very like spot together with shit. And yeah, if I get something that I know is personalized, right, I will keep it together. Yeah, and it was, he opened it like it was like open to something that somebody could just open the damn thing and pull out whatever's inside. But I've heavy metal fucking magazines or some.
Well, hey, message me. Message me an address. I literally have like 200 baseball card sized paintings of penguins with balloons, penguins with wrenches. I'll send you some more.
You did awesome. And they're thicker. They were thick, and I know that meaning the like paint you used, that shit was real deal. Your energy and like that went into that. I can jump off, so we're not sitting over here. Like I said, me and you can sit and lick each other's biceps all night. But
oh, okay, yeah. Well, hey, no, I appreciate the support.
We're gonna jump off.
Yeah, we'll jump off, but definitely get in touch with me, and I'll send you some new penguin bookmarks, hand-painted, all original, containing all the energy of the IPS. Thank you, Tommy King.
You've always been a good man, and I'd love the book that you have that has a missile on the cover. I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Secret Religion of the Elite.
Greatest work.
Secret Religion of the Elite.
That is a real deal shit there, sir. Have a great rest of your night.
Thank you.
Chat. People.
All right, everyone. There's Tommy King, longtime supporter of the channel, always reads the books. Looks like Diana South says, Autohoaxology 101 kind of freaked out my normie friend. the thing is, this is important. An important key takeaway here is that the media skeptics can go ahead and assert the intellectual high ground in any conversation about what is real or fake. But more importantly, you can assert the moral high ground. They can't get mad at you for calling it fake. You can get mad at them for believing in the fakery, because the fakery is primarily atrocity propaganda that makes life worse for everybody, that agitates and creates the info war that we live through and experience. So if you're not a media skeptic, then you can't even claim to be anti-war, insofar as the war is in fact an info war, a mind war, psychological warfare. So again, media skeptics have the moral and intellectual high ground. If they say, how dare you call it fake, you can say, how dare you take sides with government-sponsored terrorism targeting children in schools with hyper-realistic shooting drills. And that's just the beginning of it. So never feel bad for calling fake fake. Fake dead people's lives don't actually matter. All right, let's see here. Yep, Peace Tommy King says Lean Dion. Yeah, always one of the good ramblers. We have been, I think, this think tank, we've been together consistently for several years now, 5, 6 years. And it's a lot of the same people. We don't always hear from them, but many are just lurking, and there are many we've never hear from. A lot of our callers are actually first-time callers. By the way, the number's on the screen, 505-510-4226. Tommy King says, peace and respect. I was speaking through a 63% charged muffler AirPod. Yeah, someone was wondering if he was speaking through a muffler. I think last time someone suggested he was in the trunk of a car, in a closet in a school, hiding from a bowl cut shooter with an AR-15. Isn't that what David Hogg was doing? Do you remember it was like 9:30 in the morning? He's like, it's 9:30 in the morning, and there's a school shooter. How do you feel about living through your first school shooting? And the little girl's crying. And later you find out the shooting happened in the afternoon. Just one of these anomalies. If you didn't know, David Hogg's a time traveler. It wasn't a hoax. No, we'd never say that. He's a time traveler. Okay. Moving on, we were talking about the Onion buying InfoWars and then repurposing it to go after podcasters. We can't wait. And we've been talking about the state of the flat earth question. It's coming to a close. What's going to happen? What is going to happen in December when the flat earthers go to Antarctica and see a 24-hour sun? What's going to be the consequence of this? What we need to avoid is we need to avoid the tendency to double down on a model. You don't even have to concede. You can say, well, now I'm a shape agnostic, but I still need to question why the model as presented by the space agencies is primarily Photoshop. I don't think the universe is made out of pixels. I don't think we live in a Photoshop. I don't think we live in a simulation. But all of the graphics of the Earth, all the images of it as seen from space are provably simulations, artist renderings. But a couple of things here. If the Earth is demonstrated to be a ball by a 24-hour sun, you're not losing anything if you're trying to debate against the globe model. You're not losing any sort of ground here, nor have they gained any. Because one, we still haven't seen a picture of it. Two, space travel, therefore, still has not been demonstrated to exist. It doesn't make Apollo 11 real. And the question of flat or round will then have to be replaced with the question of open or closed. And this would reveal that we exist in a closed informational system, that NASA's entire space program, this whole mythology, essentially is a fictional universe. The space program is a script. It's a meta-script. And we're living through a script, a number of layered storylines, what I term the meta-script, but the space program is in fact more like a reality TV show extended over a period of time. Space travel will not be, therefore, proven to exist, no matter what they report back. But ultimately, this is about the mental terrain and where we get our information and our worldview. It's a far more critical question, because the people who just tacitly accept what they're shown, never question what the news says. In other words, the people who argue against those of us who are skeptical of NASA assume all the news is real. They assume that what NASA presents on the TV screen is scientific evidence, even when it looks like an obvious magic show. Kevin Mooring says, no coincidence that Netflix was where Leave the World Behind came out, and now they're showing the fight of the year, Fight, Fight, Fight. Well, it's almost a year since Leave the World Behind came out, and Leave the World Behind was produced by the Obamas and their company called Higher Ground Productions. The entire story was about the fall of the West, our communications, the Tower of Babel, the satellites, everything just shutting down, planes falling. There's a lot to it, but much of what we saw in Leave the World Behind happened in real life immediately after. And this had been remarked upon repeatedly by the media for most of the year. And even still, you have some individuals out there like Mike Rothschild who deny that predictive programming exists. So that's another point. Predictive programming exists. It's just a fact. If you don't believe that, it's because you haven't researched it. And the question of what predictive programming is no longer a question. It's really nothing more than propaganda. And the propaganda is presented through the literary device of foreshadowing. And like advertising, you have to be repeatedly shown a message in order to eventually agree with it, sympathize with it, choose to buy it. And they use foreshadowing and predictive programming to sell us on future fake news events, to prepare us to visualize what they're telling us about. So this, to me, this is MK Ultra. This is the mind control system. But Leave the World Behind's 1-year anniversary is coming up. It came out on the death date of JFK, 11/22, which is also the date that the new Marilyn Manson album comes out. And it's called One Assassination Under God, which might have some significance. Marilyn Manson has some connection to this Kennedy drama. If you recall his video Coma White that came out in 99, he portrayed JFK being assassinated. They had a picture of JFK on a cross. And it was the song, it's based on a script he wrote about JFK being the second coming of Christ and being killed. And then his son would be the third Christ, referring to JFK Jr. This is Marilyn Manson's script. So interestingly, that video drops and MTV pulls it because JFK Jr. died. And Marilyn Manson had to respond to this controversy, and he said, I had no idea that JFK Jr. would be dying. Didn't mean to offend. I mean, it's obviously there's a connection here. So the fact is, on this date, 11/22, his next album drops, and the main theme is assassination. So there may be some significance to that. Also, Leave the World Behind takes place in the zip code 19963, which has the 1963 in it. Diana South says, end visual illiteracy. Yeah, it's tricky because the special effects are so good that it's becoming increasingly difficult to spot deep fakes as they happen. I got fooled by a clownfish the size of a whale, and it wasn't difficult. Someone just prompted it in some generator and put it out there, and I fell for it. So visual illiteracy is as big a problem in today's world as illiteracy would be at any other time. Knowledge is power, but the ability to discern real from fake is going to be lost on a lot of people because, of course, you can break down lies when they're told to you. You can hold them to the word. But when the lies come through your eyes and there's no intrinsic filtering mechanism, because seeing is somewhat believing, we're kind of screwed. And the only way you can fix that is by reframing your psychoepistemology, where now you have to insert into everything that you perceive through the mediation process the possibility it's lying. So fake until proven real, or disbelieve by default. Isabel Ann says, 11/22, this year's Barbieheimer is the release of Gladiator 2 and Wicked. I'll have to watch those. It's important to watch whatever movie is trending at the time, because this references or will tell you what the programmers are projecting onto the collective psyche at that very moment. because they paint the zeitgeist day by day. Like the term fake news has been diminished and minimized. Fake news is not about partisan bias. It's not Fox. It's not CNN. Fake news, the entire concept has just been diluted, because what we're really talking about is history. The history that we're living is the history that they actually make. And there are real events that happen, obviously, but it's all about the selective focus, what they omit, what they focus on, and how they're able to, whenever they want to, simulate events, and those get a free pass. The simulations get included in our historical narrative. They're making history. I mean, Fly Me to the Moon is a great movie if you want to get an idea of the attitude behind the shapers of this entire system, the simulation that we all internalize. Diana South says, even Penguin actor indistinguishable. Yeah, that was the one. I watched the Penguin trailers, and I just thought this was an interesting looking individual. I didn't know it was Colin Farrell. So even if you're aware of the fakery, you can fall for it. Okay, let's see here. But no, as far as like ending visual literacy, I don't think you can. I think we're dealing with a philosophical, it's a crisis. It's a philosophical crisis. There's a ubiquitous presence that we're up against that's tantamount to a fundamentalist religious cult. And we do live in a global doomsday cult. You know, it's undeniable. Not everybody takes it as seriously as they should, as they would like you to. Like if the movie Don't Look Up, if you knew what that scientist knew, you would be agoraphobic. And they want you to be agoraphobic. Agoraphobia, meaning, of course, like the environmentalist scientists, the climate change scientists, they want you to, fear the environment and its retaliation against you for your carbon footprint. So you want to mitigate, you want to appease Gaia with your sacrifices, essentially. And that's what we're really looking at. Look at the NBC climate confessionals. You'll see people are making little sacrifices for Gaia. But it's all about appeasing this weather god. David says, catching a lot of heat on Facebook for exposing the Transformers. You haven't exposed any. The transvestigationism has been debunked as a misinformation, and you also haven't provided any evidence, and I've provided plenty of counter evidence, and it's just been summarily ignored. It's like, okay, excuse me, but you got to explain the videos of Stormy Daniels, Sylvester Stallone. You can find a lot of celebrities in the nude, which contradicts the entire theory. And the entire theory that you're espousing would suggest that Donald Trump gave birth to Barron Trump when he was 60 years old. I mean, your whole thing falls apart with any bit of scrutiny. And it's based on a flawed concept of forensic anthropology. It's almost like phrenology at this point. But it's most certainly a disinformation campaign, a bit of cognitive sabotage, until proven otherwise. And the burden of proof is on you, so you have to confront the evidence. It's interesting, though. It's just a testament to how subjective the world stage is. You can believe any crazy stuff as long as you don't disbelieve. Like, you can always add on and add on. ABC Def says you're wrong on this one. I don't know. I mean, do you want to call in? I can tell you one thing. I exposed one of the top individuals in your field of inquiry as being a communist professor pretending to be a Christian conservative QAnoner, going online talking about how all the celebrities are the opposite of what they say. It's just ridiculous. Come on. But that's not an appeal to ridicule. I'm just saying there's no evidence to support it. And now it's just become sort of like a little fetish where people have been for years. I mean, think about it. How many years have people like Mr. E been obsessing with this stuff? To no avail, no evidence, nothing has emerged. That's years and years of staring at celebrity clavicles, crotches, and Adam's apples. I mean, it's really kind of sick. There's so many other things you could be focusing on, but whatever. Okay, moving on here. Let's go ahead and get back on track. It's Infinite Plane Saturnday. It's November the 16th, 2024. On the 30th of this month, we're going to do the Auto Hoax Con number 3. So just a heads up, I'll have more information forthcoming. I'm interested in anybody's thoughts on yesterday's fight. Aside from being very anticlimactic, have you come across anything else that we have missed? Because I think there are a few other things about it that we could probably unpack here. I like Synchromorpheus' take that for the most part it is the spectacle itself. Lucid Stream says, what are we talking about? We're talking about this conspiracy theory that all of the presidents are women. And it's just, I'm sorry, but it's not even a coherent theory. And the people who push this stuff are like, they'll say Andrew Tate's a woman. And I'm like, okay, so a woman dominated male kickboxing for a few years. But when pressed for evidence, they don't really have anything to go off of. So they provide these like transparent skulls that they put over anybody's head. And they don't even say what kind of skull it is, because there are classifications. They kind of pretend to be doing some kind of analysis of people's bone structures. And they claim that you can tell by somebody's walk something about their bone structure. But these people are insane. Like, all cats are dogs. All dogs are cats. I get it. But one of the main problems with their theory is that it's non-falsifiable. And that's just a point that they have to contend with. If you're going to be honest with yourself, if you're going to be honest with what you're presenting, then your theory has to be falsifiable. If evidence contradicts you, you have to acknowledge it. But they move the goalpost repeatedly. And I've debunked it ad nauseum. I don't really think the people pushing it are even serious. I think it's one of these things where they want the right-wing conspiracy theorists to be saturated with certain notions that make them appear to be crazy. And it's tantamount to a witch hunt. If you ever look at the psychology of witch hunts and moral panics, it actually fits along with that. And this is the same group that has been targeted with Pizzagate. And Pizzagate, QAnon, are other versions of the witch hunt. And so the witch hunters are able to prove you're a witch, but it's one of these things where you can't prove yourself not a witch. Nothing can prove them wrong. It's dishonest, but it's intrinsically based on this. I don't think there are any people who believe this who aren't religious. I'll just say that. There is a religious kind of like a moral panic element to it. Lucid Stream says, presidents are women. Where's the interest in saying that? Why add to the confusion? Yeah, that's what I mean. That's the point. It's an active measure, I would say. Some of these conspiracy theories are active measures to deliberately confuse people about very basic assumptions. And so I've encountered these confused people. And one of them was trying to convince me that Mike Tyson's a woman, that Sylvester Stallone's a woman, or a biological woman. So I show them links to videos where you can show that Sylvester Stallone did some artsy videos in the 70s or something. You're not an atheist, ABC. He says, I'm an atheist, bro. No, you're not an atheist. You're some kind of a religious fundamentalist, or you at least buy into that dominant narrative. I don't think that you're an objective atheist person. You don't have any standards of evidence to accept a ridiculous proposition. So, no, I don't think so. And again, you're welcome to believe these things, but all you're admitting to is that you're confused. And I think that's the objective of the Psywar. If they can saturate you with so much misinformation that you don't know real from fake, then they've won. And if there's anything that typifies the individuals who promulgate this particular conspiracy theory, is that they're confused. And they're obviously confused. It's obviously pointless. But, you can believe what you want, but you're not going to convince a rational thinking person that Donald Trump gave birth to Barron Trump in the 2002 or something. I mean, come on. Donald Trump would have been 60. And then you can't say Melania gave birth because you already would be contradicting yourself. So again, how can you, let's just address this, ABC, since you're going to be persistent here. Address to us who gave birth to Barron Trump? If you can't answer that question, you will be hit with a wrench. I mean, I hate to say it. I don't like banning people, but just to be fair to us, you're going to come in here and you're going to assert that Melania Trump is a man, then therefore Donald Trump must be the mother of Barron Trump. So Donald Trump gave birth at 60, which is amazing in itself, but I find that unbelievable. So explain to us, in your opinion, is that true? He can't even answer. He says that's a non sequitur. No, who gave birth to Barron Trump? It's a fair question. And if he can't answer it, then he can't be honest. He's moving the goalpost. His theory's unfalsifiable. All right, we'll give you a few more seconds. You need to answer honestly who gave birth to Barron Trump. And if you can't answer in a way that's consistent with your theory, then you're bullshitting. Oh, it's a surrogate. There you go. Now you're just making stuff up. We'll go ahead and put him in timeout. I mean, honestly, that's just BS. Yeah, crotch investigators. It's bullshit. His whole theory is that, oh yeah, I can tell you that this person, this first lady's the first man and Trump's a woman. And then I ask, well, then who gave birth to the kids? Because it obviously would have been impossible. And they're saying a surrogate. No, you can't insert surrogates into the picture. It's not coherent. It's not coherent. So go ahead and drop that. See, whenever you provide something that might contradict their claims, they dance. Like some of them will say, well, look at Alex Jones, a woman. I'm like, I don't know. He's got a pretty pronounced brow ridge. And their response is, well, that's an implant. Okay, well, if he didn't have that, you would say that see what I mean? They move the goalposts. If he didn't have a pronounced brow ridge, they would say that's proof he's a woman. But he has a brow ridge. That's an implant. They do the same thing with Adam's apples. I mean, it's maddening. So I don't tend to take them very seriously. Hitchens razor saves you a lot of time. If one of these individuals comes out with these ridiculous claims, just take out your Hitchens razor, which says that which is asserted without evidence can be dismissed without evidence. So LAC, before you can even begin to try to convince us of this theory, you have to explain to us who the surrogate is that gave birth to Barron Trump. And was that already something that you had come to conclude before? Like, I don't think so. I think you just made that up on the spot because I had a response to your claim that you couldn't quite. Donald froze her eggs. Come on, that's pretty funny. But anyway, we know what this is. It's called an active measure. Let's go ahead and look this up. Active measures describes political warfare conducted by the Soviet Union and Russian Federation, dates back to the 1920s. Includes operations such as espionage, propaganda, sabotage, assassination. But specifically here, it has to do with, as it relates to what we're talking about here, the targeting of certain groups with propaganda to render them incapable of knowing what's going on, like disinformation campaigns. And I would posit that we're looking at a ton of disinformation campaigns, and that's not a tall claim. I think we can all agree that QAnon is a huge disinformation campaign. Okay, yeah, I don't know. Isabel Ann says they use Hitchens razor to shave their legs. Look, I'm not here saying that these individuals don't believe what they're saying. A lot of people are really attached to this theory. A lot of people have built huge channels around it. There's one guy who used to say that all NFL football players are biological women. And, I try to understand how they arrive at this. And I can kind of see their line of thinking. But then, again, you present them with something that would contradict it, and they just go into making stuff up. So we'll wait and see. I'm not saying surrogates are new, but you can't just invent that out of the blue. You can't just say that out of the blue, that all of a sudden, because I came up with a contradiction to your theory, oh, that Barron came from somewhere else. They ordered him on Wayfair. Yeah, they ordered a Wayfair filing cabinet called Barron. Yeah, I mean, that's just so... It's not even... You haven't auto-hoaxed your own claims. How about that? You haven't been skeptical of your own claims. Where's your skepticism? Where's your fake until proven real with extraordinary claims? Because you have to admit, That is an extraordinary claim. Good point, Linda Curtis. I think the EGI is to castrate logical channels. Exactly. It's so inconsistent, but it's also a point where you have to rely on truthers to be honest on their own accord and to not deceive themselves. And these individuals are promoting bad faith claims. So we just put them on notice. The notice is the evidence is now on you to go provide something to substantiate everything that you've claimed. And everything is fakeable, I agree. But the question is it fakeable at scale? Like, yes, there are some people who say gorillas don't exist, that it's a guy in a monkey suit. Yeah, sure. You could have an animatronic. You can have people in gorilla suits at a zoo, and they could pretend. But could you do that at scale? Could you fake it globally? No. Kevin Mooring says the black goo is back. Megan Fox pregnancy announced. She's covered in black goo like Greta. I saw that. What does that mean? I saw her in, I think it's called, is it called Jennifer? Jennifer's Body. So Jennifer's Body is where she's possessed by a demon, and I think she vomits out a ton of black goo. And yeah, here's a picture of Megan Fox announcing her pregnancy, and she's covered in black goo. And yeah, Greta Thunberg did the black goo. Now, it was all digital. I would have had more respect for her if she had really dumped oil on her head, but it was a protest against oil. It's amazing how you can find so many images of Greta Thunberg here with the one eye stuff. I think she's actually kind of a significant historic personage. Obviously an actress, but her role on the world stage, we've talked about it at length, it is very consistent with the New Age ideology they are rolling out. And I referred to her as the crown conquering child prophesied by Aleister Crowley. And I don't think I'm off on that. All right, LAC. See, I don't know. I don't know where to go with some of these questions, but I don't think that you have forensic anthropology on your side. Like, I think that you got a hammer, and that's all you have, so everything looks like a nail. But I think before you can really make any legitimate claims, you need to answer the question about Stormy Daniels and Sylvester Stallone, because we have evidence that contradicts your big theory. But I noticed, too, that the people who promote these ideas, some of these theories, almost act like they're ashamed of it, because they're always hiding their identities. They're always anonymous. And anonymous trolls are not to be trusted. I mean, when I say anonymous, I mean unaccountable. Like, if you have some information that is just paradigm shattering, why would you conceal yourself? Like, look at, what was that guy's name? Donnie Darkened. Do you remember Donnie Darkened? It was just like anonymous character, and I accused him of using ChatGPT to write his sermons. But he would claim that Donald Trump was the Antichrist, and he got this huge following. He goes on Tim Pool. Nobody knows who he is. Why is he hiding his identity? Well, he was doxxed. And it turns out that Donnie Darkened was actually a pro-Trump guy with a huge following. But he also had another role where he's an anti-Trump guy, huge following. So when I look at these individuals, they're either casualties of the mind war, and they're mind virus super spreaders who are just spreading what they've heard, or they're operatives being paid to propagandize. But I think it's notable that these ideas only take root on the right wing. They only take root among the people who are QAnon adjacent, who fall for the moral panics, the satanic panic, the adrenochrome garbage, the chemtrail stuff. So we're not talking about clear thinkers. If you believe in chemtrails, you exist in the fog of Psy-War. Unless you can admit it's merely a belief, you have no knowledge to support that belief, and you're doing so and believing it in contradiction to the established information that proves that contrails are predictable. But again, I try to back away from those who are confused. There's no excuse for being confused. You should know what you know and not espouse what you merely can believe as though it's some kind of knowledge that we can take to the bank. Like, it's actually objective. Like, no, it's pretty much not. Joined by Northern Girl. Thank you for joining. Isabel Ann says black goo goes back to Egyptian burials, also in Prometheus and Alien movies. Yeah, it's a thing that just showed up, and it is one of these reoccurring symbols of something. And so with Greta Thunberg, I think it represents, of course, oil. And it's like Gaia's blood. We're sacrificing Gaia for our free market stuff. Infinite Plane Radio.
Sir Tim, I do apologize. I went up and had dinner, and when I come down, I see the picture, and I don't know who you spoke with. What is this Saturday? What was that mongrel's name? This child, or now she's this lady's name. What was her name?
Greta Thunberg.
Greta. So what Greta, this whole thing, what is that cover?
Okay, so this cover, The Time Is Now, it's from The Guardian, and it's meant to represent oil and how we need to stop our overconsumption of fossil fuels. And so she's a martyr because she says, you've killed my future. You, consumers of oil your entire lives, you have destroyed the world for me, and we've robbed her of her childhood. So we've ruined Greta's life.
Blatantly looks, exactly, yes. And she blatantly looks like an AI child. Hairless, we can't tell girl, boy. What else I see? I see, obviously, one other symbolism that we're there. And,
well, that's relevant. That's relevant. We could point this out. The new Aeon, according to the occultists, is the Aeon of Horus. So the one-eye symbolism pertains to that. And the archetype for this new religion, it's no longer the patriarchal god, but it's the androgen child. And the child represents a new beginning detached from tradition. Okay. So Greta, I think, was deliberately presented as an androgen child to criticize the older generations and call them out as...
For sure. That was that energy of that young lady when she showed up. And what age did she show up as, doing that high school sophomore energy of I'm the bitch on the soapbox energy to the world? And now she's what, 23? I'm assuming Greta's gotta be 23.
She's 21, I believe, because she and Kyle Rittenhouse have the same birthday, January the 3rd, 2003. Isn't that interesting that Kyle Rittenhouse and
isn't that cute?
Greta Thunberg?
Here's a button.
Yeah, they had the same nursery.
Each side of the lobby. Each side of the lobby. Same birthday. He snipers off shot that goes through the what? So with the skateboarder, I'm assuming it's the middle finger and ring finger.
Right.
In my brain, that's all I ever picture is like a bullet hole with a guy holding up his hand, and it's through the middle finger and ring finger, and like the separation of skin. But I'm a horror movie dork, and I'm about to eat dinner now. So
Okay. Wait. Hey, speaking of,
a bit loose tonight.
Do you have any good horror? Do you have any good horror movies to recommend?
Yeah. Golly, so
I recently watched.
On,
I watched Terrifier recently. Have you seen Terrifier?
Okay, so I could sort of talk since now. So have you watched Starfire 1? So you saw the first?
I just watched the first one.
And you haven't went down 2 or 3 yet, correct?
No.
Hurry up. We're waiting for you, IPS. We're waiting for you. Already went to Terrifier 3 in the theater. I went to T3 2 times. T3 is the new, like Terminator, right? T2 is the best sequel. T3 is the horror T2. I'll say it like that.
Okay, because I'm interested.
Another narrative.
I'm interested.
Exactly. The way I worded that, I just now came up with that on the spot for horror movie nerds. T3 is the horror guy. T2.
Well, it's another clown Joker archetype. And one question. See, the first one, I know they had like a $35,000 budget, and
Yep.
I'm wondering, did the bigger
Yep.
budget on the subsequent ones appreciate the quality, or did they lose that charm?
Tim Osmond, because I know it. I do. I don't know you, but we've done this for years. We've done this move, and I love that we're talking horror movies now. You're talking to my heart. When you go into the Terrifier, see what I did is I went opening weekend to Terrifier 2. I can't even believe you haven't blessed yourself with such a great scene. And the third one, I went into the theater opening night. Went at the first showing in my town of Fargo, North Dakota. And Terrifier 3, I watched a double feature where you saw Terrifier 2 at 6 o'clock, and then about 7, I think Terrifier 3 starts. And Terrifier 2 in the theater is so macabre on some scenes that you look at people and you go, why are we sitting here? And I have to do this weird spiritual move where I'm been to the dark side of like happiness and peace and want to be one with myself and this hippy dippy Tommy. But there's a weird, I love Texas Chainsaw Massacre and I love Pet Sematary 2, Edward Furlong, in that whole bike scene with the stepdad in Pet Sematary 2 and Brain Scan. I have these weird VHS dork things in me, and this fulfills all of them.
Interesting. Well, you know what? The first one I saw elements.
Go to it.
The first one I saw elements of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, especially when he wears that woman's skin. Okay, now when he saws that one in half, that's just like the body that was in Ed Gein's barn that they found dressed like a deer.
So,
that was pretty.
Really?
These are all callbacks. Like the movie is actually, I think, made by a horror fan.
He's an homager. He is an homager, whatever you would call that.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly.
Attention to being homage is so on point. How I brought up the Jake Paul showing up and knowing the song, right? If you go in and can do that with the movie, it's going to be a blast through the whole time. All he does is those, and he does them to a T. They do them to a perfect dork, fun status, and then the scenes get so. These people left on in the middle of Terrifier 2, and I knew I could leave the theater, and I ran outside, smoked cigarettes, came back in, and then was coming in, and a husband and wife or couple were leaving, and I jokingly go, you guys are leaving right now, right? And he goes, there's no plot. And the guy, right? So white people will say whatever. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm in North Dakota, so it just goes implied. I just say it walking by when you know exactly when two people are walking out of a theater and you're in Terrifier in theaters. Terrifier in theaters is not the same as at home. And so when I was leaving, I go, you guys are leaving, huh? And she goes, there's just no plot. And I'm like, just wait, it gets there. Because Terrifier 2 is very hard to watch plot-wise.
Well, I saw callbacks. Like there's a scene where those characters are hiding in that locker.
Yeah.
And that's like that's Crystal Lake.
Changes. Everything changes in Terrifier.
That's exactly like Jason's
all the good homages.
Yes, exactly. So I was like,
all
this is well thought out.
All the good homages are there. He does it, but so Terrifier 2 then does callbacks, but then now he can do his own callbacks. And then Terrifier 3 has I'm not going to give nothing. Just know if you go in with, I jokingly call it Adderall brain, where it's like this, you can just fucking bim, 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 bim. If you go into Terrifier with that and you're a savant of film, it's fun. It's like watching a Quentin Tarantino movie, right? Remember when Quentin Tarantino movies, you watch and go, fucking, yep. I know what he did there.
Do you remember, or have you heard that theory that the Nephilim looked like clowns, like big evil clowns? Have you heard that?
Yes. Oh, for sure.
Anyway, I was looking at all these evil clowns, from Pennywise to this one, and then we have the Smile movies, Joker. It's like, what is with that?
What is with that? So I have not watched Smile yet. I'm pretty sure I'm horror movie failing, but I have not saw Smile 1 or 2.
I haven't yet. I just noticed that it came out, and I noticed Smile 2, Joker 2, and I looked into the origin of the smile. They call it the
Joker.
They call it the Glasgow smile. and it's a
Okay.
reference to the Black Dahlia murder and the way that her face was cut.
Okay, so okay. Now we're going back to Josh Hartnett. Josh Hartnett is in the new M. Night Shyamalan Trap movie, which is the callback of a conspiracy theory with what's her name? She was dating Post Malone, Adriana Grande concert.
Oh, you're talking about Trap. Trap.
Yeah, yeah.
I just watched it.
Yeah,
Okay, and I was wondering. I was like, wait, we haven't had like a serial killer in a long time. It's all been mass shooters, and we've been talking about this, and all of a sudden we have this serial killer movie coming out. I'm wondering, are they going to reintroduce serial killers now? Are we ready for it again? Are they going to cycle back to that?
When you saw the preview for Trap, did you immediately go, "That's the Ariana Grande mass shooter film being exposed"?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I was trying to figure out who is the pop star. Good call there. So if anyone hasn't seen it, in Trap, Josh Hartnett, it not even a spoiler to say it's a serial killer, but it involves
just whatever. You can just watch
sting.
it and say, just, yeah,
But
I
was like, who is this pop star?
Not conspiracy theorist. Exactly.
She has to be Ariana Grande, and it has to be connected to the Manchester bombing.
Yep. And then from there, so then Smile 2 is also then a artist. Smile 2 is a Ariana Grande also, or like a Lady Gaga that's getting fucked with.
Then we should expect there to be a serial killer very soon on the world stage.
Yeah, they're exposed. Yeah, they're exposing, and I can't tell. My conspiracy brain sees it. Nobody else sees it. There, I just go right when I see these previews in. And another dorky thing that nobody else might not know, unless they obviously saw the Terrifiers in the theater, which now you're only going to see at home. There was no previews. The only preview you saw was the one on My Town Marcus Theaters, right? And then a the Mickey Mouse, the new Mickey Mouse movie. Since Steamboat Willie is not in the public domain. Right? So the Disney public domain. Steamboat Willie's Mickey Mouse, and you can't have any Disney. The only preview you see or saw was they're making a Steamboat Willie in 2025.
Okay, interesting. Steamboat Willie 2025.
Yep. It's Mickey Mouse. Yep, it's Mickey Mouse. The Mickey Mouse fucking first. Because you get what I'm saying.
Hey, one final horror movie. Did you see Blink Twice? Blink Twice. Channing Tatum.
No, that is the Channing Tatum, and I'm a Channing Tatum queen. I meant that came out. Can I take that back? You know what I meant. I like him.
Yeah. Well, I don't have a delay.
For a guy.
Well, I would say this.
No.
I say this. Okay, so if you're into like Italian horror films, like I'm just saying, if you watch Blink Twice, you will probably see Dario Argento. You'll see Suspiria. You'll see a lot of these like highly stylized killing scenes built into this movie.
Have you watched Suspiria with a human yet? The new one?
I've seen the
with like a date or a.
I watched the first one with friends, and they were shocked. The first, I mean, if everyone doesn't know, Suspiria, I think, is actually part of the basis for Blink Twice. But it actually has a scene at the end where this cult has this all-seeing eye, and they worship a peacock.
You got me.
Yeah,
the
first one is better, I think, than the second one was good. Okay. But the first one's filmed in the Escher House.
Second one. I've seen the second one.
It's good, but the first one is just it's the most disturbingly choreographed knife and slasher scenes I think ever filmed. And it's artfully done, but it's sick.
And for sure, and I love it. I like when I watch these older movies and they show, because I felt like Suspiria did it. The director showed like when that actress is in the room and she's all nervous about being with that old man, and he has like a Freemason book blatantly there, but yet we don't know, or a pentagram book. Like the book has it has a Freemason logo.
Well,
like it trips her out.
In the first one, yeah, it's about this like a group of witches that are secretly behind the scenes killing these people in highly ritualistic ways. And one other point here, and it does relate to what we're always talking about, visual literacy, is back when I was into these horror films, I was a film studies major, and I liked the special effects
Okay.
that used, like
Mm.
synthetic props, theatrical blood, and I didn't
Yeah.
like the trend of everything going digital. And I felt like it was
Oh my
degrading the
God.
final product. And I think that's an intentional thing because as they've switched to digital, they've made it less real. So when they fake stuff with
Osman,
simulations, it seems realer than what we're accustomed to.
Osman, I do not want to talk over you right now, but I know exactly what you're talking about. So there is this. I can't know him off the top of my head, but I'm going to give a movie reference of a character he plays. But he is the special effects, gore special effects master in movies. He's the Mexican guy from Dusk Till Dawn, Sex Machine, with the gun on his crotch. He is a gore, not the guy Greg Nicotero. He's not Greg Nicotero, but he's like Greg Nicotero's understudy. And
Okay.
he's made all the big gore, and he only abides by what you're saying. He's in Terrifier 3, dude.
Oh, okay.
He's in
Okay.
it. And I'm not giving away nothing, but exactly what you're talking about
You know what's
is,
incredible now is that you've got
yeah.
hyper realistic surgical training
Mm-hmm.
dolls that bleed and
Yep.
breathe. They can speak. So the cutting edge training dolls are more realistic than any movie props we've ever seen.
For
And
sure.
and they shipped hundreds of these things to Ukraine for training
Oh yeah,
purposes.
I remember all
But
that.
like the next level of crisis actors and simulation casualties are going to be so realistic that nobody's going to be able to see through it. That's why you have to have
For sure.
the correct
There was
approach.
exactly, and then there was a time even this is years ago. There was some car accident in some town. It was called Believe It Before It's News.com, and now that .com is obviously gone, or it might be a Reddit or something now. But it was called like Believe It Before whatever news.com, and I went back and I've looked at it, and there was a car accident in Turkey, we'll say, where them bodies of those like just fake prop people were all over the place, and the people go, oh, it was like a white van that got sideswiped, and so it looked grotesque, but they're like, oh, this is just prop bodies, but it looked crazy, and the people were like, the guy, I felt like it was like one of those almost pre-programming glitches that they just show, but it was such low-key news in America, with bodies all over the road. Look,
Well, hey, look, as a rule of thumb, anything they can fake in the movies, they can fake on the news. That's just how it works. And we live in a simulation augmented
yeah,
shared consensus
yeah,
reality.
yeah. And I remember seeing that article, and I screenshot it. I remember screen shooting it, and it's probably on an old
Hey,
laptop.
Kevin Mooring's going
But
to call in, but he says it is Tom Savini is the crotch gun guy you were talking about.
yes. And if you look him up, he is a great sex machine. Is a character in from Barcelona. He's an OG,
Okay, here it is.
OG.
Prosthetic makeup artist and director
Yeah,
and performer. Okay, so he's known for his prosthetic. The
he's the
man.
man. He's the
Okay,
man.
I see that. I see that.
He is.
Interesting.
He is. Yes.
He's
Yes.
probably
And when
CIA. I mean, they probably. This is the thing is.
his cameo in Terrifier 3. If you're a dork, I almost stood up in the theater and clapped right when I saw him, and I go, yes, because that movie is blatantly gore porn ish, like body OGs of authentic FX, like the real FX. This is what the Nerdtron horror nerds, like this is what they're doing it on point.
This is.
They do it so good in the new one. It's just fun. It's so fun, and
He,
I feel weird saying it like that, but it's
he's
fun.
worked on Argento films. Interesting character, but what I'm pointing
Yeah.
out here is that the level of special effects, prosthetic makeups, this has been used by intelligence agencies,
Oh yeah.
classified for a long time. And so I wonder, are what they're showing us in Hollywood, is it years behind, or is it cutting edge, or is it what's declassified?
Years behind, especially with the tanks. Because we all know John the Bottom whatnot. The blow up tanks and then the guy's moving it. Like all of a sudden they have 4 men moving a tank on sticks.
Oh yeah, the
Right,
inflatable
like
tanks, the
so
decoy
war.
tanks of World War II.
Yeah,
And you know,
yeah,
so
dude.
if people don't
Get
know,
out of here.
and we saw this in Ukraine. They're like they have these
Yeah,
wooden surface-to-air missile launchers, and they got dummy missiles. And they're reporting this stuff as like, oh look, they're tricking those Russians. It's like no, they're not. These are props that are meant to trick the news consumers. It's always the case. They simulate tanks, bases, aircraft carriers, and now with CGI, who knows? I mean, they could just pretty much, it's like
for
Minecraft. They
sure.
just make it
For
all
sure.
up on the spot, and it's infinite fakery. They don't have to
It's
have
wild. It's
inflatable
wild.
tanks. It can all just be
What
AVR.
if I can just say this for 2 seconds, also Tim, when I do jump on, obviously I try to come with jokingly, we're talking movie stuff, and at the same time this stuff is real. I don't take anything we talk about lightly. It does come off when we can smile and laugh about movie gore and or real stuff and news. I guess the only just know that I don't come in to be like jokingly talk about it. It's some serious shit. It's very serious because a lot of people have no idea what we're talking about. I honestly do appreciate everything you're doing. I hate if you ever get like people calling you out on not being a genuine man. You are a very genuine man, and I do respect everything you do to a level that I am blessed to know you, to have met you, and to have an outspoken voice that you do. And what you do is needed. Is it funny? Sure. Is it sickening and hard to live in? Obviously. So just know you're a good man, and until we meet again, brother, just keep doing you. And honestly, I do respect everything you do to the utmost. Never think that I'm joking, and take what you're doing lightly. And I know you're a genuine human, so
Well, thank you
you.
very much. I
Honestly.
appreciate that.
And
Likewise, and
have a good rest of your night.
great. And we all appreciate the laughs. We really do. Thank you for the time.
For sure. Thank you. Bye.
And it is serious, but at the same time, we have unplugged from a lot of the superstitions, the manufactured fear through atrocity propaganda that's designed to put us in a state of essentially submission. Let me go ahead and bring up this quote by Frank Herbert Dune. This is something that's worth being repeated. Frank Herbert, the author of Dune. This is referring to the masses of people that we call the normies. They are not mad. They're trained to believe, not to know. Belief can be manipulated. Only knowledge is dangerous. And we traffic in knowledge. We reject low information belief, and when you investigate something that is questionable and you don't find any facts to support it, you're not obligated to believe it. You're not obligated to give them the benefit of the doubt. You can just say, I'm a non-believer. And if you want that to change, you can provide facts, which they generally do not do. But that makes us knowers rather than believers. And the fact is, the normies are trained to believe. Their operating system is designed that way. They're designed to be passive recipients of government programming, mind viruses the state wants them to have. They don't want you to be an active consumer of news where you critically think about everything you imbibe mentally. It's more like they want you to be passive. That's why I say that mainstream and alternative media requires passive consumption. We're engaged in a more active consumption of news. I would say that we are something like a fake news wood chipper. Ted Stryker brought in 10 blue wrenches, Lean Dion, A. Neufel, Rome, Joanne Cat, Oliver, G33, Me and My Drone, This Is Where It's At. Pauly and Mimsy Schwimsy have all received the coveted IPS blue wrench. Abuse the power responsibly. Ryler05 says Black Dahlia was a hoax. Yeah, probably. Infinite Plane Radio.
Yo, it's Kevin. What's up, buddy?
Hey, what's up, Kevin Mooring? Thank you for calling in.
I just want to, since you're on the horror movie stuff, I thought it would be cool to. There's a theory out there. You know Kevin from Home Alone?
Yes.
Well, if you look, when his parents leave him, he's like downstairs, and then there's a clown puppet in the background. But the theory is that Kevin from Home Alone grew up to become Jigsaw for the movie Saw. They both have these intricate puzzles to punish the evil. Do you see where I'm going with this?
Okay, and all the traps and the contraptions.
Yes, yes. Punishing the evil people, the bad people. That's what Saw did. That's what he did to the criminals. He set all them traps.
Okay.
And then Jigsaw.
Okay, this is
that's a
intriguing.
thing, you know?
This is intriguing. It reminds me of the theory that Willy Wonka passed on his thing to Charlie, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, that he is the adult engineer in Snowpiercer, and you can make these connections. I hadn't heard this, but I found some threads on it. This is actually rather good. Looks
Figured you
coherent.
guys would like to hear this on the horror side. That's all I want to do. I just want to go in and tell you this crazy theory that Kevin from Home Alone grew up to be Jigsaw.
All right, appreciate that, and I'll look into it. Thanks again. Have a great evening. All right, that's Kevin Mooring, and yeah, it looks like it. Home Alone, The Good Son, Party Monster equals Saw. An invisible crossover that doesn't rely on the same actor being in both movies. Now that's an interesting point there. The relationship between these characters. This may not be 100% legitimate, but whether or not it is something worth studying, how actors will carry certain messages across multiple movies that aren't related. But it says here, he tortured the burglars. I understand that. Jigsaw, there's some kind of... yeah, okay, I see this. It probably fits. Okay, let's see what we have here. N.A. Literalist says, Q and the good aliens are fighting the bad aliens. Oh, the bad aliens, like the ones that scratched Tucker Carlson when he was in bed and left a scar. Yeah, that is a thing. Or angels versus demons, and the aliens are actually demons. I've heard this one for some time. Again, I would maintain that aliens are a construct to replace angels in this new paradigm. That these are angels that the atheists will believe in. Okay, so I'm kind of scrolling through it, and it looks like there's something legitimate. Kevin grew up to become Jigsaw. I can see it. There are some people who think that Macaulay Culkin is actually Kid Rock. I do not find that believable. But I do find the Jigsaw thing to be plausible. Someone says that Kevin Mooring sounds like Enslaved by Truth. Yeah, it's kind of interesting how many people accuse people or suggest that somebody might be somebody else. We used to have Mark Dice calling in kind of regularly. And I rarely talk about Mark Dice, but he did seem to be a regular caller. And as soon as I called it out, he blocked me. And so I really haven't been able to keep up with him. But I'm not blocked on his backup account. If you remember, he used to go by John Connor, then he became Mark Dice. But the theory is that he used to be a big InfoWars contributor. Right now, he's just kind of a right-wing conspiracy propagandist guy. But the theory is that he is River Phoenix. And there's quite a few channels that have dedicated themselves to showing, hey, this dead celebrity is actually this person now. And there does seem to be a pattern of death fakers getting involved in conspiracy propaganda. So I sent a picture of Joaquin Phoenix to Mark Dice, and I said, is this your brother? Is your brother the Joker? And then he blocked me, which to me was confirmation it's probably him. Absolutely, Kevin Mooring is enslaved by truth. Who's the other one? Somebody had suggested that fakeologist is Anthony Cumio or something. And then I am also... Who was it? There was this really insane person. It was like friends with David J. Xmas Eve evil. She had toxic plasmosis affecting her mind, and she was certain that I am also playing the role of, who was it? I'll have to get back to you, but we strayed from that. I mean, we got away from that. We had to. We realized that Trutherville was a place where a lot of people could be safe, just indulging in delusion, witch hunts, and untested conspiracy theories. It just becomes a free for all. So you have this sea of irrelevance where facts don't matter. It's really about clicks and entertainment. And now most truthers are engaged in rage bait, clickbait, various forms of engagement bait, but it's clicks over facts. Yeah, Linda Curtis, that's right. They claim, these individuals claim that Linda Curtis is the actress that played Wonder Woman, the original Wonder Woman. And you're a biological male. But who was I again? I think they had me pegged. Am I Corey Feldman? I mean, that's how crazy they get. They never let facts get in the way of a narrative that might get them a few extra clicks. It's kind of like what the mainstream media does. If it bleeds, it leads. It's just putting out content to get money. And now that they've incentivized disinformation or any kind of information, there's no standard here because people are being led by essentially greed. Ted Stryker says, Tim has many roles, especially being a God blocker. That's right. That's right. I am the Mandela effect is beyond just underwear labels and candy wrappers. It actually goes into bodily changes. And they claim that our heart moved, we have an extra rib, we have more holes in our head. They claim that the Mandela effect is actually mutating us over time. And I think that at the end of their Mandela effect journey, they will all have perfect bodies. They'll be perfect. Everything will have been like transhumanism, but happening through trans-dimensional shifts, incremental changes, kind of like evolution. So here they are evolving into these timeline shifting, reality surfing Mandela gurus, and I'm saying it's all a hoax, guys. And they saw this as a legitimate spiritual path. So when I debunked the Mandela effect, they said, this guy is blocking God. He's a God blocker. One of them even cried, basically. I'm not going to name him, but he said that he doesn't want to live in this world. It's such a terrible place. And here they have hope. And here I am taking away their hope. And for a moment, I felt kind of bad. It's like, should I just leave them to their deception? But the answer is no. No. It's actually cruel. It's cruel not to tell them that they have been mandoozled. In fact, they should be paying us. You know, you normally have to pay therapists to fix this kind of mind effery. Piano says Mandela affects a tiny community. Why the focus on it? Here's why. It's not a tiny community. It is one of the biggest conspiracy theories accepted most widely and uncritically by truthers in general, like chemtrails. And it's a perfect example of multiple logical fallacies built into a proposition. And if you accept the proposition, then you have multiple blind spots that need to be exposed. It's also cognitive sabotage, and it definitely seems to be a targeted active measure against those who would discern the media simulation for what it is. Instead, they confuse the media simulation with reality being a simulation. So there is value in destroying truth or orthodoxies. There is a value in debunking bad ideas and articulating the reasons why it's fake or the reason why it's not to be believed. It's liberating. And every time you debunk something like that, I think we're more or less, we're engaging in what truthers are pretending to do. So it needs to be debunked. And all the people who fell for it will no longer fall for similar situations. And what we're talking about here is a form of manipulation of one's recollections. We're talking about creating a false paradigm through a limited set of options designed to lead people down a certain path. The mainstream media's operating system is pretty much the Mandela effect, and it's worth exposing because 75%, I believe, of wrongfully convicted. I think there's, I don't know the exact numbers. I have to look it up again. It's called the Innocence Project, but they did this study, and they found many people who were convicted wrongfully were convicted on the basis of faulty eyewitness testimony. Well, faulty eyewitness testimony is created by the interrogator, by the investigators. And there's a direct parallel in the creation of Mandela effects, which are in fact examples of faulty eyewitness testimony. Did you see this man crossing the street at this time last Tuesday? Do you remember Ed McMahon passing out big checks? There's a formula here at work, and there's a reason why it's presented in a very certain way. And we have reversed engineered it, but it's still spread wildly by big channels, and people play dumb. They say, we don't know what causes this. It's like, no, it's very well understood. The misinformation effect is real. Faulty eyewitness testimony is real, and it is the result of interference by the interrogator. So again, why would I focus on it? Because it's a big fat lie. Why would you focus on the moon landing? Why would we focus on any psychological operation? Because these are lies. It's what we do. We are fake news wood chippers here. We are clear cutting a forest of misinformation, and we can do without a lot of this cognitive sabotage. And one of the reasons why we are creating this parallel media is because alt media has been too lenient. Their standards have been too low. We aren't just passive believers in random nonsense that the mainstream rejects. Quite the opposite. Okay, let's go ahead and continue. Lean Dion says there was a Hollywood movie about it, and it's promoted. Exactly. You can't call it fringe. Not only is it promoted, it's given a pass, and it's treated as though it's a mystery. And it's not a mystery. These aren't mysteries. There are no Mandela effects. I used to create my own. And people would say, wow, that's amazing. And then someone said, no, you can't trust that guy. He doesn't really believe in it. So how come my Mandela effects don't count? And I have put out an ebook breaking it down, explaining why it can't be true. And I may have to bring it out again because there are many points I could raise that would automatically, I think, put the burden of proof back on those asserting it. Piano Andente says moon landing can't be compared to the ME. They are somewhat analogous. What we're talking about here is cognitive sabotage, getting people to believe things that aren't true, that actually alter your model of reality. So there is a relationship here. But the theory isn't coherent, and it raises a lot of interesting points. Like when you say, I remember, what are you actually suggesting? Like when you say, and I've heard people say this, I remember Timmy in the well. Timmy fell down the well from Lassie. And when someone says, I remember it, are they claiming that they recall sitting down in a chair, they recall the TV, or is it a vague recollection? Like how deep does this memory actually go? So I started asking these individuals, so you remember the star of the TV show falling down a well. My follow-up question is, how did they get him out? Not one person who remembers Timmy falling down the well can recall how they brought him out. Was it a rope? Was it a crane? They don't have any answers. And that's because they don't have an authentic memory to back it up. And I have many such examples. We have a documentary ready to record, and I have a cinematographer. We ought to just go after this one. It's just been kind of on the back burner. But the research is there. And it's an education in memory, in recollection, and how your mind can be screwed with, how they can interfere with your recollection. And it says a lot about the mainstream media operating system itself, how they can use entertainment as a way to reinforce things that didn't really happen, and your recollection of things is going to be bolstered by simulations, by movies, by all this information that gets conflated. There are many examples of documentaries about Pearl Harbor where they don't mention that you're looking at recreations, for example. And so people think that's war footage. So it goes into their assertion that, oh, I believe this happened in this way and I've seen video of it. Well, no, you actually haven't. Ted Stryker says, Jif being Jiffy is because the other brand's Skippy. Horrible Mandela. Another problem with Jif and Jiffy is that Jiffy couldn't fit on the label. You wouldn't be able to see it all the way. Another good one, Chick-fil-A. People say Chick-fil-A didn't always have a K in it. Well, if you look at the French fries, the box, it's CHIC. K is on the other side of the box. So you may be going to this place, you're buying French fries, you're buying food, and it's always wrapped up, and you don't see the entire word, so you only remember CHIC. So that is a real memory you have. So when somebody gaslights you and they say, hey, reality's shifting, you can't trust your perceptions, everything's changed, what do you remember, Chick-fil-A or Chick-fil-A with a K? They'll say, well, I don't remember the K. It's a valid response. But it doesn't therefore mean reality has shifted because of CERN. What it means is the French fry box didn't have enough space. So your recollection might even have some basis in truth, and you would call that a misperception. Like, how come misheard song lyrics? Do you know how many misheard song lyrics there are where millions of people mistakenly memorize a song wrong? How come those aren't considered to be reality shifts? Because people do indeed misremember things. There are misconceptions. Okay, we started talking about this, time to fix the country through DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. Elon Musk tweeted this yesterday. He tweeted himself holding a wrench. And I only brought this up because I had my wrench yesterday. Roxy says there's Jiffy popcorn. Well, there's also a lack of research. This is another thing that I exposed. The Mandela affected are really bad at research. And there's a number of logical fallacies we could bring up. Occam's razor, a heuristic we should bring up. What's more likely? That every dictionary in the world changed the spelling of dilemma, or that you got it wrong? And the Mandela effect, it will say, no, I remember it was spelled with 2 M's. Or I remember it was spelled like this. And they have many words that they misspelled. And they claim that this is evidence of reality shifting. But I can't trust your claim to be a perfect speller if you haven't won spelling bees in your past, because misspelling is a very common thing. So I think we can reject those. Categorically, we can reject those ones. But there are various categories of it. But ultimately, I think what we're looking at here is a form of misperceptions that are given an interpretation that is just wildly wrong. And a lot of people don't want to admit they've been fooled. As Mark Twain said, it's easy to fool a person, but it's very difficult to convince them that they've been fooled. But there's actually a payoff here. There's a reward for it. It's a rewarding thing to realize you've been fooled and then to examine how it happened so that you can understand what your vulnerability was. Do you fall for loaded questions? Do you research your claims? So, for example, Ford has a logo with a swirl on it. They say it didn't used to have a swirl on it. Are you sure? Because if you do some digging, you find out that Thomas Edison and Henry Ford were friends. And Henry Ford put Thomas Edison's initials into the Ford logo. So if you zoom in on the F with the swirl, it creates a TE for Thomas Edison. So that's a very well-known bit of lore about their relationship, about that logo. So the idea that somebody, quote, remembers a time when the Ford logo didn't have a swirl, well, what is the basis for that memory? Because it was never like that. So when we're saying I remember, if we're asserting that I am a witness, well, that implies certain, I think, certain expectations of you if you're going to say I remember. So if I was going to say I remember Timmy fell down the well, I would be able to tell you how he got out. And by the way, there's a book called Timmy Fell Down the Well by the actor who played Timmy in Lassie. And they said, why did you entitle your book Timmy Fell Down the Well? And he said, well, it's because Timmy fell down everything else. The only thing he hadn't fallen down was a well. So that's why he gave his book that title. But if you look into it, there may be a reason why people have assembled this memory, because there is a scene where Lassie the dog pushes a bad guy into a hole, into a well. Okay, let's see. Lucid Stream says neuro-linguistic programming is also a thing. Yeah, the basis for neuro-linguistic programming is that we have to pay attention to how our internal communication works, what our frame of references are, and that is primarily what they're messing with. Neuro-linguistic programming are internal models, and the internal model of the truther is different than the internal model of the wokester, and they both differ from the normie. The normie's blue pill, placid dreaming. The wokesters and the truthers are having nightmares. They have a scapegoat for who runs the world. They have various explanations for why they're oppressed, and they feel like they have to fight to get the sleepers to wake up and agree with them. But they all have their various internal maps of the world, and they're trying to assert that their map is the one everybody should adopt. This is what religious wars have always been about. These are paradigm wars, worldview warfare. And worldview warfare is encouraged so long as it all takes place on the world stage as defined by Big Brother. And that's why I say, war is peace. Orwell. The peace that we have, the state of having been conquered by this power elite that use mind war, it's maintained through the constant conflict, the perpetual mind war. So we have been conquered. The conquerors write history. They do so through implementing psychological warfare operations and fake news, which is what we call it. And over time, the fake news piles up and it becomes fake history. So they control history. It's the design authority, as you can see in the movie Megalopolis. Kevin Mooring says, Elon's building robots and wants to chip your brain and put up Starlink, aka Skynet, in the White House. What could go wrong? Yes, Elon Musk is also associated with these experiments on apes or monkeys where they're chipping them and they die. And I think this relates to 28 Days Later, where they're doing experiments on apes and having them watch violent movies, which turns into a rage virus. And the rage virus is going to be manifesting as disease X, and it's going to come from X. And all this concerted messaging with the raging monkey themes, like, for example, the movie called Monkey Man, which came out on 3/11, a pandemic date. Monkey Man. Then we have, of course, Black Myth, Bad Monkey, the WHO, the monkeypox, the 90-foot-tall monkey god statue. We had all this concerted messaging relating to the idea of this rage virus. And so it is highly significant that Musk not only has the vector for disease X, the platform itself, but that he's also associated with this theme of apes and the Neuralink, which is all very consistent. Art Cook says, throw a beak on Elon, great pick. Yeah, somebody should, and also paint the wrench blue. Ted Stryker says, the Manson Lassie spoof was good from the Ben Stiller show. Okay, now that's an example of the misinformation effect. So the misinformation effect refers to the ability or the effect of new information affecting your recollections. And so many people who believe in Mandela effects are actually acquiring their belief from spoofs. So there's a spoof of Ed McMahon in a van driving around handing out big checks. He never did that in reality, but people believe it because it's this urban myth, and then they see these spoofs which assume that it really happened. You see a spoof of it, it surely must have happened, but it all becomes conflated. And you add in cognitive bias, a predisposition to believe because they've already accepted the premise, and it makes sense. Although what doesn't make sense is why there aren't any new Mandela effects, and there haven't been for a long time. And I've been saying, hey, your conspiracy theory is going to die. You need to have some conferences and start having children and then raising them on the old movies you watched and then explain to them how it changed. You're going to have to watch, I guess you're going to have to watch Moonraker with your kids and try to convince them that Dolly used to have braces. Otherwise, the conspiracy is going to die, like a religious cult that's not being fruitful. It's not going to multiply, and there are no new Mandela effects. So I actually think it's moribund. I think the Mandela effect it's dead, but I think it's worth studying. Like, let's give it a thorough autopsy. Roxy W says, that's how we got Luke, I'm Your Father from SNL, Chris Farley. Precisely. There are explanations for all of it. Like, for example, Fruit Loops. People say, I remember Fruit Loops used to be Fruit, not Froot. That can't be true. The FDA didn't let Fruit Loops call it fruit because it would be false advertising, because Fruit Loops is not really fruit. And you can find records of this. So no, nobody has a valid recollection. Like, I remember I was 3 years old. It's like, okay, you were a child. I don't think we can even trust your recollection. Everybody knows is not an argument for anything. They'll say, everybody knows that Mr. Rogers said, welcome to our neighborhood, or whatever the crap it is. Everybody knows? I don't think so. I barely know. I can't even remember what the Mandela effect is. But not only that, if you're going to say everybody knows this, then I can say everybody knows we walked on the moon. So this is why I was comparing Apollo 11 to the Mandela effect. These are bad claims that rest on bad evidence and logical fallacies. And we can't say everybody believes it, so it's true. All the scientists agree, so it's true. Doesn't work that way. Everybody remembers this. Everybody remembers Timmy and the... No, they don't. I'm not included. Lane Dion says, why are the effects so lame? Well, one of the other ones, I think, one more. So Sinbad was in a movie called Shazam, they say. And I found reasons why people have arrived at this belief. But the claim is that I remember this movie that was on prime time with Sinbad the comedian, and he was a genie. Okay, well, if the movie you remember was on TV, then we can assume it was pretty good, right? So now you have in your mind, in your memory, you have a script for a TV show or a movie that's good enough to be on prime time. Why don't you write it down? Why don't you write the script? Since it doesn't exist in this reality, it can't possibly be copyrighted. So take your script of Shazam and get it produced by Hollywood. Nobody's done it. Why not? Because nobody knows what the script is. Nobody remembers how Timmy got out of the well. Nobody remembers what Shazam is about. Any recollection of Shazam comes from an April Fool's Day prank that the comedian did to troll the Mandela affected. Not to mention House Guest, where his head's coming out of the mailbox and it looks like a genie lamp, and then you have something with Shaq. There are explanations for all of them. But one other point. I'm like, hey, I just debunked your Mandela effect. And like, well, what about this one? What about this one? Or it's like an interrogation where they will sit down and they will say, do you remember this thing? Do you remember Ed McMahon? Do you remember Timmy in the Well? What do you remember about your underwear tag, Fruit of the Loom? Cornucopia or no? And they keep going, and then they'll say eventually, oh, that one gets me. Dolly definitely had braces, but the rest of them don't affect me. So they keep going until they get a hit. So not all the Mandela affected have been affected by the same ones. The trouble with this is that the first one that doesn't come true should be a red flag. And they keep on going until one hits. They are creating this false perception, but the Mandela effect has been categorically debunked. You don't have to go through and debunk every single one. You can just explain how the effect is created, and that's good enough. But I've done my homework, and I have debunked all of them. I'm pretty sure. And I don't know anybody who claims that their family's wealth came from a big check delivered to them by Ed McMahon. There are no families in big mansions somewhere that can claim that, yeah, Ed McMahon dropped off a check for my grandma, and now they're saying that it never existed. Like, where are those people? Okay, I think we've covered quite a lot of ground. Infinite Plane's Saturnday had a couple of calls, talked about horror movies, which is a relevant topic. Movies are relevant, horror movies in particular, because it deals with special effects. And these recent movies about serial killers make me wonder, are they going to bring that back? Like, are we at a point where they can market this again? Because I think ultimately they couldn't really market serial killers with our fragmented media, so they had to switch to mass shooters so they could just get the whole story out in one day. And the public attention span is just so fragmented that they can't really hook us on a serial killer story as they could in the past. They couldn't terrify us, but maybe they can entertain us with it. And so I'm kind of thinking, given this latest movie I saw on Netflix called The Trap, I think that we are going to see some serial killers coming out where it's popular on TikTok. People talk about it, huge buzz. They become these sort of anti-heroes. Morbidly, people will probably create fan clubs for it. So I think we might be seeing that. And I base this also on this pattern that we've noticed within the Metascript where you see entire time periods being repeated. 1968 to 1973, 2020 to right now, there's been a ton of overlap. 1968 and 2020, basically the same year. 1969, 2021, many overlaps, including the anniversary date of Apollo, Bezos going to space, all kinds of connections like this. And right now we're living through Pizzagate and QAnon, which are reinventions of the Satanic Panic. And this has all been reiterated with the show Stranger Things, which is about the Satanic Panic. And around the time of the Satanic Panic, you had Richard Ramirez, the serial killer, and other serial killers were pretty popular at the time. So I'm thinking maybe they're going to bring it back. So using predictive programming as a predictive model, I think it's reasonable to suggest that we are going to be seeing some new serial killers here very soon. And so we'll be monitoring that. I will likely continue this tomorrow. I have a little bit of work to do. I'm going to do the archives for tonight and also the 90-minute talk we had today with Bach Precision. And I sent you the link in the last newsletter, but I'm going to upload it so it goes out on all of the podcast platforms. And then I'll put a link to his channel so we can continue to network with others who are Psywar aware. Because if you're not auto-hoaxing, you're not paying attention. If you're not aware of how infused our mediated news, our news is with psyops, perception management, just propaganda, the total deluge, and how it's not disconnected from what came before in the entertainment. If you're not aware of all of that, if you don't have that as your perspective, you can't consider yourself to be a skeptic. There are no skeptics within the MSM box. It's impossible. You don't have enough information to believe what they say. So you're a low information believer, and more information would debunk so much of it. Anyway, thank you for the comments and participation. This is Auto Hoaxology by Symbia.
Just because you saw it on the screen doesn't make it real. I don't take the red pill, I don't take the blue pill. I just choose to follow my dreams, auto hoax and chill. I stepped off the world stage and I moved away from all the fake outrage and the hearsay. And I don't give the time of day to lose a naysay, because they got a bad case of the mind day. I stepped away from the game entirely. I won't be caught up in their lame dichotomy. I stepped away from the cage entirely. I'm free today and my mind's been set by reading Auto Hoaxology. chilling, reading out of hoaxology, rejecting all the expectations of the auto-believer, to become a new creation on the raft of receivers. Standing on the sword of truth, I step the backs of deceivers, demanding burdens of the proof from all the hacks and believers. I stepped away from the game entirely, I won't be caught up in the lame dichotomy. I stepped away from the cage entirely, I'm free today and my mind's been saved by reading auto-hoaxology, out of the control system finally. I know where to go if you follow me, 'cause I've been reading auto-hoaxology, nothing can bother me. Auto-hoaxology won't put the screen before it's blasphemy. I won't become another mind war casualty. I came up out the realm of possibility to take the helm of this reality, 'cause I've been chilling reading auto-hoaxology, suspending all the judgment, you won't get a reaction. Won't defend it, I won't budge until I get all the facts in. I won't argue with the bots about